Hi, friends. We are here. It is Red River week. So we have friends here that are ready to talk Red River and other things that happened, like, Vanderbilt beating Alabama and little things. I was so happy.
This is a
Oh
crazy,
man.
crazy weekend in college football. That is for dang sure.
Yeah.
I
Day
saw
one, that game, like in the middle of our game, and where I was sitting, I was in a suite and we had a TV over here, and everyone's like, "What's going on?"
What is happening? Yeah, I think America collectively had that reaction to everything going on this week. So I feel
yes,
like pretty much everybody outside of the state of Alabama was rooting for Vanderbilt in that game.
Yeah.
Pretty
half
pretty
of the
bonkers.
state of Alabama may
You're
go
right.
to Alabama.
Right.
What a way to
Just
start!
okay with it.
What a way to start the day too in College Station with that
Oh
beatdown
man.
over the Tigers.
Oh
That
my
was
god.
That
I was at
crazy
the
to
fair.
watch.
I was at the fair and I was like, I'm not gonna watch it. And then we had to sit down because it was hot. And my boyfriend goes, let's go sit in there. And I was like, ooh, a TV with the game on
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
So we're getting
Absolutely.
ready to go tailgate, and I'm like, "Is that happening?"
Missouri just didn't show up. And it's
No.
Yeah.
because
Look.
they made stupid ass comments all week. That's all it is.
Well, well, and credit to A&M. You guys really looked like a complete program. I think, obviously I'm wearing my burnt orange glasses here a little bit, but I mean, again, A&M hands down showed up ready, played what I would call y'all's most complete game of the
Oh yeah.
season. And to be fair, on the other side of it, I think it's pretty obvious that Mizzou was
Not good.
incredibly overrated. Yeah,
Overrated.
they had been maybe boosted a little bit by the conference. So it was a great game for you guys. Hell of a win for A&M and a good statement for Elko and his staff. So congratulations, Shelby, on that.
I enjoyed it. I'll be honest. And now I'm just hoping that we don't, shit the bed against Mississippi State because that would be poetic.
Listen, after all the smack talk that Aggies were doing for Texas beating, Mississippi State in the fashion that we did, you better hang some on them. I'm just saying, you got a lot of trash talk to back up there.
We did last year, and then Jimbo got fired. So
Who knows?
because that's our favorite thing to do is have a big win and then fire your coach right after.
Yeah, that seems logical, right? Seems logical.
That makes so much sense. See, Georgia and Auburn wasn't exciting as much as I wanted it to be.
I didn't
it
watch
stayed
the
interesting for a little bit, but yeah, that Auburn just is still Auburn. So
Womp womp, sad
Yeah.
trombone.
In the words of Ethan, Peyton Thorne is booty butt. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, question for y'all.
Yes.
Ole Miss. What are your thoughts on Ole Miss right now?
I don't know.
I don't know. I really do.
I feel like that's my reaction too. It's like,
I mean, I
man,
think they're still overrated. I think
They're
LSU
good.
is
Like, they're
overrated. So, like,
offensively
this
good,
weekend's
yeah.
going to be a big test.
I think, yeah, I think they're probably not like a top 5-ish team, but I think they're gonna go on another little run at some point during the season. Probably gonna involve when OU comes to town later on. So I'm bracing myself for that being a really, really tough road game as a Sooner fan. But yeah, it's like I feel like coming into the season, I didn't think too much of them. And then after some weeks, I was like, oh, actually, they're really good.
Mhm.
And then they kind of look like they did. And against Kentucky, I'm like, oh, I don't know. So it's like up and down. But I think right now I'm like, it's a solid top 15, possibly a top 10 team still by the end of the year. But I just know that however they look, they're gonna be on their A game when OU comes to town. So I'm just ready for it.
Yeah, we get that too for sure. And look, I'm gonna say this right now about Kentucky. Rocky, my co-host on Fire the Cannon, she has had Kentucky circled on Texas's schedule as a potential trap game for us.
Oh yeah.
Literally before the season started. And everything we've seen from Kentucky so far screams that she is probably dang right about that, because Kentucky looks like they've got a really good football program right on the cusp of being a damn good football program, right? It's just they're just a few points away from those big wins. They're kind of in the phase of, you go from losing big to losing small to winning big. Feels like Kentucky's right on that edge of, yeah, they're right in that losing small. But a few games, a few different things go their way, and their season looks a lot different. So Kentucky, I don't count them out. I think they're actually a really good ball club right now.
In Austin, or are you going to Lexington?
Yeah, we have them in Austin. So we've got the Murderers Row right coming up for us. We play OU at the Cotton Bowl, and then Georgia comes to Austin, and then we go to Vanderbilt. So
Vanderbilt.
yeah, look at that. World Killers Vanderbilt, right? So yeah, we're we've got that stretch right there, and then we get obviously into the tail end of our season, but we actually play Kentucky right before A&M. So that's not an easy stint either for Texas. So we've kind of been chuckling on the Longhorn side. We've been chuckling that everybody's been saying, oh, Texas has this easy SEC schedule, right? But we were told there was no easy SEC schedules. Well, that no easy SEC schedule narrative seems to be coming a little more true for Texas's schedule right now with who we've got. So it's going to be make or break for Texas here in these next few games, really showing who we are and seeing if we're the real deal, if we are an actual number one team and an actual national championship contender over the next stretch of these few games.
I'll say I don't want you to be, but
appreciate that. I imagine I'm probably the only one on this podcast right now that wants Texas to be there. I feel like I'm a kind of in the den with the enemies, right? We've got
That's right.
Come on, A&M, OU, and Arkansas. What am I thinking?
Right.
Come on.
My little sister was coloring a picture with her new special needs tech, and they said, "Do you want to use orange?" And Emily screams, the top of her lungs, "We don't like orange. Saw them off." I was like, "Oh my god."
That's fair. Look, that's fair. We can't all raise them right. It's okay.
I laughed so hard, and my dad was looked at me like, why?
Yeah,
like,
what have you done?
Sorry. We taught her. That started when we beat y'all in Omaha. What, 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
Yeah.
How long ago that was?
Would have been 20. Bear with me. I think that would have been 22.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because that was the year OU went to the championship and then lost to Ole Miss. So, right?
Or is that might have been 21?
That was 21. Yeah, Texas and A&M playing. We were booted out early by A&M.
Okay.
In 22. Yeah. Not a great showing in Omaha for Texas, as the past few times we've been there haven't been a real strong showing. Which, like you said, Shelby, we have a coach that wins a few things, and we'll fire him. Like David Pierce got the boot last season. I know you're probably still bitter about our hire. It's okay. We won't have to linger on it too much. But yeah, it's a lot of exciting stuff happening on the 40 acres. I can say that. I know that the vibes around Austin and around Longhorn Nation are at an all-time high right now. I feel like the athletics program as a whole is just clicking. Volleyball's doing well. Football's finally back where we feel that they should be. Softball went head-to-head with OU. OU, again, you'd be an idiot not to give props to OU softball. Y'all are just a freaking dynasty down there. Yeah, listen. Yeah, no, y'all, it's incredible program. And what Gasso's doing down there is amazing. So, but Texas feels like we're on the up and up with a lot of our programs and ranking consistently. So, we'll see
about
how it goes
right now too. Like I really do.
Yeah,
especially
y'all had
with y'all last year. Like we were like maybe a swing or two away from.
That was the craziest super regional I've ever seen.
It really was. I was there. It was hot. I will tell you, it was brutally hot. And it was a fun series. There was definitely nobody was comfortable in that series. No, I don't think either side, Longhorns or Aggies, were comfortable there, because it was a kind of series that anything could happen. And at the drop of a switch, flip of a switch, that game turned on its heels several times. All three of the games turned quickly. So it was a fun series for sure, but I'm sure that took many years off of my life being there watching.
God, yes.
So it was definitely, yeah.
I feel like every time A&M and UT meet things, it takes years off my life.
Yeah. I mean, I will say Texas has been fortunate They've had a pretty good, since we haven't been in the same conference. The few times that we have met up with A&M, we've usually come out pretty well. I know we've played you guys in volleyball, softball a few times. So, but now, you know,
was on our side though. So
yeah. Well, but bring back that Lone Star Showdown trophy, right? And
I'm so excited.
passing that back and forth. Okay, I am genuinely curious about this. Like, I'm gonna sound snarky as hell, and I'm telling you right now, I don't intend to. But given like the record between Texas athletics and A&M athletics, like, is this something that Aggies are super excited about, to have a trophy that lives in Austin or College Station for every single game, depending on who
I honestly
wins?
didn't realize there was a trophy. So there's that. But I also am just excited to play the game because I'm real sick of this Twitter argument all the time.
That's fair.
We got to do something.
Right. No,
Like,
I get it.
Right now.
Put up or shut up, right? Like,
honestly,
I get that for sure.
It's like, I feel like I've been with people that are arguing about stupid things. Like, it's things that aren't even close. It's like, oh, my school's better than yours because, and I'm like, both are really good colleges, actually. So, like, can y'all calm down, please?
Oh, come on. It wouldn't be Twitter if we were logical about things. I don't know what you're talking about. Come on.
I just wish people wouldn't be hateful. I can be unlogical, but hateful is where I draw a line.
Oh, agreed wholeheartedly. There's a lot of ugliness out there from time to time, and I've certainly,
I've certainly bonfire joke, I might scream.
I don't. Okay, I will. Maybe I've just blocked the right people or muted the right people.
Probably
but
have.
Everybody that I've seen is on the Texas side is super respectful of bonfire. I mean, we all had friends. In that, it's not something to joke about. I actually had a friend she was a year older than me, and she was on the bonfire 15 minutes before it collapsed. She was helping build it, and her phone had died, so nobody could get a hold of her when the news came out that the bonfire came down. It was just a really scary time. So yeah, look, you'll never get a bonfire joke out of me. That's not something to joke about. It was a horrible tragedy, and it's just something that I don't care who you are, what school you root for. It's just heartbreaking. Yeah, what had happened was absolutely heartbreaking. So,
but but say back on topic, because this is what Cindy and I do. We're really good at going places that we're not.
Listen, I squirrel out all the time, so bring me back in.
Real good at. Oh, look, shiny things.
Right.
It's okay. It happens. See, South Carolina and Alabama. What are we feeling?
Oh, whoa, we're skipping over. We're just going right over
the big Woo Pig win last week.
I'm sorry, Cindy. I thought we had done it. Go ahead, Cindy. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought we covered it.
No,
I'm sorry.
Reel us back in.
Sorry, Sid. Go ahead.
Nico, whatever his name is, sucks. Tennessee sucks.
I want that shit on a t-shirt.
Nico, whatever his name is, sucks.
That
game was so stressful. I don't think I looked at the field the entire fourth quarter because, like, every time I would look, something bad would happen. So I'm like just staring, looking around.
You're the weird person facing backwards, or just like staring at a wall.
I was staring at the ceiling, and I was like, "All right." And then I'd hear cheers and be like, "What happened? What happened? What happened?" And that the last drive, Tennessee's drive, we were in a box, but the window's open, and like there was a little drop like this big to the bleachers, and we were like, if we jump out of this window and onto the bleachers, like Tennessee's gonna do something crazy. Like they're gonna score. We're gonna look like idiots. I don't know what we're gonna do, but we did it anyways. And then he ran out, and it was literally pandemonium. It was insane, but it was so much fun.
Yeah, no, it was a hell of a win. I would say that would be the talk of the week had Vanderbilt not done what Vanderbilt did, right? Like is much, it's hard for me to feel anything positive for Arkansas, I'll just be honest with you. But I did feel a twinge of like, you got to feel bad that y'all's big win was kind of overshadowed by
Vanderbilt
beating number one.
Throwing the goalposts in the river.
Right.
Ours was too, Sid. It's okay.
How's Taylor Green? Is there an update?
They think it's his MCL, but they're hopeful that he'll be back for LSU.
The game you guarantee to win in?
Me?
Yes, I saw that's on Twitter. It's on your Twitter.
I did tweet that, and then like 10 minutes later, we're like,
just kidding,
crapping the bed against UAB, and I went back and I was like, I take this back. I disagree with the statement.
I regret this tweet immediately.
Yeah, we got a night game. It's gonna be rocking, and we're beating LSU. Easy.
We are beating LSU. It's fine. We play LSU my birthday weekend, so if we lose, I might cry.
Yeah, look, LSU is another team to me this year that is just really hard to figure out. I thought at the beginning of the year, hey, they might have some stuff to build on, and then you watch them, you're like, man, this team just doesn't seem very good. And then all of a sudden, as soon as you count them out, then LSU does something pretty great, and it's just another one of those teams that I just cannot nail down. I can't figure out at this point. So they strike me as another team in the SEC right now that could either lose by 30 or win by 30. Like they're so all over the board. It feels
they're out to ruin someone's weekend.
Yeah. Look, Daryl K. Royal had a saying for teams like that. He used to call them cockroaches. He said it specifically of TCU, and he would call them cockroaches, not in the way that you would think, but he said, man, they're those teams that can fall into something. They're not going to cause a lot of damage, but if they fall into your oatmeal or whatever, it ruins the oatmeal. And they're the teams that can stumble into something, fall into something, and just ruin things for the others. But yeah, they're hard to figure out this year. I feel like half the SEC is hard to figure out this year.
Yeah. It's like y'all jumped in and now everything has gone to shit.
You're welcome. I mean, for you, maybe.
Alabama's losing to Vanderbilt. Like, what the hell is happening?
Look, I'm just calling that payback, right? When Alabama and Texas played in the national championship for the 2009 game, and Bama took out Colt McCoy, that kind of was the beginning of our really shitty decade or so of football. So we blame Alabama for that. And so we're going to take credit for going into Tuscaloosa last year and beating a Nick Saban Bama team in Tuscaloosa. And that's we feel like that started Alabama's downfall a little bit and started our rise back. So payback's a bitch, right?
There you go. Did y'all see Vanderbilt's quarterback was interviewed on ESPN and Johnny Manziel jumped on? He looked like he was going to cry. And I was like, okay, I don't even react to Johnny Manziel like that. What the hell?
Yeah, that's funny. I think my favorite reaction from him was, they were interviewing him and he was talking about giving glory to God, and then he drops an F-bomb, gets distracted and drops the F-bomb right in the middle of the interview on live TV, and then kind of comes back and he's like, "Oh, right. Oh, right. I'm giving an interview."
And just hearing him talk and the look on his face, I felt that F-bomb coming. I was like, the longer they let him go, he's gonna drop it.
He's not gonna be able to edit himself very long here. Yeah. Look, I forever have said I want to make a shirt that says football, my second favorite F word. So I'm here for it. I thought it was hilarious. I'm sure some people got their knickers in a twist over it, but I thought it was great. I mean, come on, it's a passionate game. The kid was excited. So,
oh yeah.
And again, sorry, y'all. This is Toro joining the conversation.
My friend. So, I love that.
Yeah, he's kind of nosy.
Why is Missouri going to UMass? Why? What?
Who's getting paid? I guess are they paying UMass?
That's a good question.
Are they paying UMass to go to UMass? That just feels weird to me.
We played UMass. What was it? The year before we fired Jimbo.
Yeah, but they came to y'all.
One of us because there was nobody there, and I'm like, it was 38 degrees, raining. We were playing UMass. The team was 5-6 or whatever it was. No one wants to be there.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I will tell you that it was horrible, and we left at halftime.
Yeah, that whole thing's a weird situation. But again, I will say this, and I don't see Texas shifting into this kind of scheduling, but we've long kind of poked at SEC teams for scheduling a cupcake at the end of the season. And we know that a lot of folks are, oh, well, that's the break. It's the SEC is the grind, and you need a smaller team at the end. I don't know. I don't see Texas doing that. Seth, does Oklahoma, who do y'all have scheduled at the end of y'all season? Do you have a break?
I think the first week in November or something, OU's playing Maine. So that's
So
going to
you guys
be,
did it too. All right, fair enough.
yeah. And the
Yep,
schedule
long
was weird for OU this year because this year was supposed to be the year that OU went to Georgia. Like
Mhm.
last year was supposed to be the year that Georgia came to Norman. And then so after taking those 2 games out because of the SEC move, the whole schedule got flipped around and stuff. And then like Houston became a non-conference opponent, and Tulane kind of came back, and it was just really weird. So, but it'll be interesting to see if OU continues the Maines of the world after this year, which I feel like they probably will, just because a
Yeah.
lot of other teams in the SEC do it. So,
Yeah,
but I do want to get back to those marquee non-conference games that OU has had a lot in the past. Ohio State, Notre Dame, Florida State, Tennessee back in 2015 and stuff. So, yeah, it'd be nice to have those like Texas has the Alabama and the Michigan and stuff like that.
Yeah, we've got Ohio State next year, so. Whew.
I'd love to play Florida State this year. I would love to.
Right. Everybody would love to play Florida
Like,
State.
I'll take that game. That's fine.
I think my favorite karma is a bitch moment from this season so far has been SMU beating the absolute like dog crap out of Florida State, because SMU was specifically listed in Florida State's lawsuit, saying that Florida State was above these kind of teams and these kind of schools, and they had no business in their conference, and then they get dog walked by the SMU ponies. What is happening this year? It just
But if you ask their coach, they have the toughest schedule in the nation, and that's why they're not winning.
Well, when you're a terrible team, everything seems tough. Right?
Yeah, but it's all relative.
Right.
I saw that they're like, we had the worst schedule for the first 3 games, and I was like, no, shut up.
Did you though? Did you? Yeah. No, it has been a really oddball year for college football, and I think, I don't know, part of me is saying, all right, how we talked about this on Fire the Cannon a couple episodes ago, but when the portal was coming through, right, and the portal changes happened, and then NIL happened, and everybody's, oh, this is going to ruin college football, and oh, what is happening? To me, I think we're starting to see some parity in college football, and I think, behind the scenes, I feel like the portal has had an effect in creating a season like we've seen so far this year. Because again, you're getting some of those players that wouldn't necessarily be at the smaller schools, or wouldn't be, they're the haves and the have-nots. And I think we're starting to see that balance out a little bit, where some of these smaller schools, or some of the schools that haven't historically had a ton of success, are able to pick up guys through the portal, offer them NIL money or whatever, but get some players that can be program changing players. And I think part of that is kind of, we're seeing a little bit of that come into play with a season like we're seeing right now. So, my hypothesis, maybe I'm completely off base here, but I like to think that the portal's changing things for the better.
Yeah. I think they said we had like 18 transfers making an impact on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean,
year.
Yeah, I mean, look at Texas too. I mean, we lost 11 players to the draft last year, and we had a lot of attrition from that. And Sarkisian, to his credit, went right in and hit the portal hard and got a lot of really top quality transfers in, along with recruiting well and developing players. So some of our younger guys are a little bit older now, but I think Texas is a good example of benefiting from the portal if you use it properly. I'm still curious to keep an eye on Clemson. They're starting to show some signs of life, but it always cracks me up that Dabo is just hell bent against using the portal. I feel like that's just going to be an outdated, outdated coaching style, not in the distant future, right? Like it'll be interesting to see if he can maintain success without using the portal.
We have a Clemson fan in our little group chat that Cindy and I are in, and every time someone needs a coach, he's like, I know someone.
Make a call. Yeah. Has the shine worn off for Dabo at Clemson?
I feel like it has.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like you're getting a lot of these guys in the portal too that are like from these smaller schools that are good. That people are like, haha, you got someone from like some D2, whatever. I'm like, no, they're good.
Yeah.
Don't hate.
Yeah, look, you see some of that. For the longest time, Texas wouldn't take JUCO players. It was just a thing that they refused to do. And that changed with Coach Pierce. We really started looking, and we got players like Ivan Melendez out of it, right? Like our leading home run hitter of all time. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity here with the portal and with transfers and with the JUCO system and things like that. And coaches kind of opening up to that and paying a little more attention. It certainly makes recruiting a little more difficult. It throws more things on the plate of coaches, but yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of programs benefiting from it.
I love seeing the players coming from other schools that people are like, oh, that player sucks. Like I don't know why you wanted him. And then they become like the best player in your defense. And you're like, was it you or was it him?
Maybe it wasn't the player. Right.
Like perfect example, Scooby Williams from Florida. Ethan is hell-bent that Scooby was the worst player on their defense. And I'm like, really? Because he's not doing bad for us. Right. Maybe he just needed Elko.
There you go.
Like, what?
Yeah, the right fit definitely matters.
It does.
It'll be interesting to see where a guy like the UNLV quarterback that just recently announced, Sluka. That talked about, he's redshirting and hitting the portal. And it'll be interesting to see where he goes, because for his sake, he would hope that wherever he does end up, he is actually successful there, plays there. Because otherwise, everybody's going to look right back to this decision that is very questionable. I mean, he had it made with where he's at for this season. It seems like he's maybe getting bad advice. Who knows? But.
Well, I can also appreciate it. It looked like he didn't have. So when he made the deal, the verbal commitment with UNLV, it was against the rules to have a written NIL contract. The school couldn't offer that, right? And so according to him, the school said, hey, we promised you X amount of dollars, but we can't put it in writing. We're just going to, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You're going to be getting $100,000. And he got something like 3,000. I'll be honest, if that's really how that played out, I don't blame the kid.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
If I go to work for a job and they promise me a certain amount of salary and I'm receiving, 3% of that, I'm probably going to be pretty pissed about it as well. So I get it. What's a little more alarming to me is, I'll use UNLV as an example too. The running back, shortly after the Sluka ordeal came up, the running back announced that he was essentially redshirting himself because it was playing time. I think an Alabama player just recently announced that as well. So I appreciate Sluka's situation. I understand why he made the choice that he made, and I'm on his side for that. But I get a little widgy when I see some of these players saying, oh, well, I'm not playing enough, so I'm going to redshirt myself. Again, I understand why they're making those decisions, but that to me feels a little less, I don't know, wholesome isn't the right word, but it feels like we're bordering a little too much on the, come on, guys, how many players, again, I can use Texas as an example with Roshan Johnson and Jordan Whittington. These were guys that made sacrifices, weren't getting the playing time they want, but decided they're going to stick it out. Or go to a different position and do what the team needed, and ended up being drafted and are both really successful in the NFL right now. So I don't know. I feel like that kind of takes away from that when players are deciding to redshirt themselves over playing time or disagreements with the coach. Whereas that feels like a slippery slope to me.
I agree. Absolutely. I see, it's like, it makes me think of Tate Martell. And you have the I'm leaving because I'm not getting playing time. I'm going, and then he never got playing time anywhere. And I'm like, well,
that Sluka kid's he's never gonna do anything on the field.
Right.
Ever again.
Right. Attitude still matters, right?
Yeah.
Ass, my dude. I will
he was
never
about to lose that job.
I will never forget that quote. I can't believe that he literally put that out in the world. Did you think that was going to look good on you? Insulting another player to make you look better. Did you really think that was going to work? Who gave you that idea? Because I need to talk to them.
Right.
And Zach Calzada beat Alabama. So, maybe he wasn't ass, my dude.
One of the Tennessee players posted a story and put like belt to ass week 5, and then got a belt to his ass. So.
Yeah.
For that after the Missouri game, and I was like, okay, sure.
I feel like if anything, just don't be bulletin board material.
Yeah.
It seems like at this point the lesson would be learned. Like, just come on, man, just keep it. And I'll be honest, like there have been a couple players for Texas, a couple young players. I'm trying to remember who it was at this point. I think it was, I'd have to double check, but one of our guys went in and was asked about the OU game, right? And saying, oh, how are you feeling, coming off the bye week and going in? He's like, oh, I think we're just going to dominate them. I think we're going to, I'm like, oh God, kid, don't say that in this of all games. Don't say that. Like, number one, Oklahoma doesn't need the bulletin board material. Number two, this is a rivalry game. This crazier things have happened. Like, I watched a Charlie Strong team beat a top 5 Oklahoma team. Like, right, Seth, I'm sorry. I had to bring that pain here a bit, but yeah, like I went into that game fully expecting, like, all right, this isn't going to go our way. It's not going to be wonderful. And then that was probably one of my most joyful Texas OU weekends, just because it was so insanely unexpected. But I mean, it just goes to show you with this rivalry. I mean, Seth, you guys have it's happened with Oklahoma too. Oklahoma's come in with a team that hasn't been expected to do a whole heck of a lot against really good Texas teams and made Texas look foolish. So it is a crazy rivalry.
Yeah, I was looking at historically, or at least like within the last 20 years or so, when it comes to the spread versus what actually happens in the game, and like what were the expectations going into the game. And the closest comp I could find to what we're seeing this year, so Texas is like about a 2-touchdown favorite, give or take point there. But back to 2005, which obviously 2005, team of destiny, Texas, I think Texas was like maybe a 13-point favorite in that game, and they ended up winning, what was it, like 4 touchdowns or something like that. Like, they smoked OU.
It was pretty out of control.
Yeah. So it was like they definitely backed up what the expectations of that, and so there's a parallel there. I'm obviously hoping that we don't see a repeat of that, where Texas just completely, speaking of belt to ass, that's not what I'm looking for this week. But historically, whether Texas or OU has been favored, for the most part, I don't have the percentages, but for the most part, it's closer than whoever's like favored by whatever the spread is. It tends to be closer. So that's why that's what makes it exciting for both sides, no matter what the teams are looking like going in. Obviously, 2022, that one, it just was kind of ultimately going to be a beatdown when OU just did not have a quarterback, and that's a failure on a lot of levels. But we don't have to get all into that. But yeah, that one was.
Don't we? Let's elaborate on that one, Seth. Come on, the 49-0. You don't want to talk about it? Come on.
There's a lot going wrong in that season, and the untimely injury to Dylan Gabriel like the week before, and so it's that was bad. But for the most part, outside of that game, for the last decade plus, it's been that it's lived up to its name, it's lived up to its rivalry, and so that's another reason why I can't wait till Saturday.
Yeah,
I'm excited to watch it, not gonna lie, and I'm excited that I don't have to watch one of our games.
I think the stress out.
You're gonna be like us last
week. One of y'all's sadness.
That's fair. No, look, it is a really unique situation for this particular game, because typically you don't see Texas and OU coming off of a bye week right before the game. It gives both teams, there's pretty solid injuries on both sides, and that extra week to really get ready for the game, ready for rest your mind, rest your body, rest your soul a little bit, take some time off, do what you need to do to get healthy. I think that's going to hugely benefit both teams. Obviously on the Texas side, Quinn Ewers has been out for the past 2 games, and getting him back, it's already, of course, coach was playing a little bit coy during his press conference. Well, he's been practicing well. We're not sure. Listen, we know he's starting. We know he's going to be in. And again, Seth, hate to bring it up, but last time Quinn Ewers came into the OU game off of an injury, after taking a week or 2 off, was that 49-0 game. So I think in that sense, Texas feels pretty good. We feel confident with the quarterback situation on our side. But yeah, I mean, I think having that time off for both teams was really important. You guys got some key players back, just announced too, right, Seth?
Yeah, I'm not sure when did the injury or availability reports like officially, was that yesterday or tonight?
It just dropped today. So you
Oh,
guys,
I haven't seen
yeah.
the
Now this will tomorrow will be the more official, right,
okay.
of who's starting and who's not. But it looks like for Oklahoma, this one surprised me a little bit. Jaden Gibson, your wide receiver, is out, listed as out. Farouk, Nick Anderson, Andrell Anthony, Gentry Williams, Kendall Dolby, Jarian Hatchett, they're all listed as out. And then you have two, Deion Burke and Cade McIntyre, wide receiver and a tight end, listed as questionable.
Yeah,
Everybody and their mama hurt.
Yeah, but again, go ahead, Seth. Sorry.
The one I'm probably most excited for, like I really wish a lot of these receivers would have been back, but there's the injuries were pretty serious for a lot of them, so it wasn't going to happen. But Burks, I'm really hoping Burks can somehow be off questionable and just ready to go. But defensively, Deshaun McCullough, and he's already been Brent and everybody's already talked about him coming back. He hasn't played all season, but I think it was something that happened in the preseason camp. But he's somebody who he was a big time difference maker. I felt like last year on the field in this game against Texas. So having him back just kind of gives the defense more versatility. He's like he kind of goes between like a backer kind of cheetah role for Brent. Really, he's just a versatile guy. He can go out in coverage, but he's super long. But he's also got the strength to get up there in the trenches and take on some of the bigger guys if he needs to, just break down some blocks and stuff. But he's somebody who I'm excited about. And I mean, really the things that most Sooner fans are excited for in this game are on the defense. There's not too many things on offense that Sooner fans can realistically be hopeful for, but there's Michael Hawkins Jr. I think kind of starts there offensively, quarterback, true freshman, just going to be his second start ever in his first start was at Auburn, which is definitely a very lively environment, but then OU Texas is obviously like the environment, like probably the craziest game he's going to play in his career, like at least in a regular season. So it doesn't get any bigger than this. So if he can just not look like a true freshman for too long of stretches, it'll give OU a chance in this game. And that's kind of what OU kind of has to bank on that, because if he's struggling, there's no way the offense is doing anything.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Look, I think one area that Texas has struggled a little bit, we certainly saw it in the Mississippi State game, is defending the run in the middle of the field. Texas just let Mississippi State run all over them, and some things went their way. Now, the defense really stiffened up when it came to red zone, when it came to turnovers. So that helped Texas out with Mississippi State. But that's something that I know they've been hammering in practice. Like, you got to stop the run. You got to plug up the middle. And with the mobile quarterback like you guys have, that's a concern, honestly. I mean, I think that's something, if he can get some plays going and not make silly freshman mistakes, and just manage the game versus try to, do anything crazy, and then just get a few runs going. Like, I think Oklahoma definitely will have a little bit, they got a fighting chance in the game, right? Like, if you look at I'm not trying to be insulting. This is just one of those years. No. This is one of those years that you look at the numbers and you look at how Texas defense lines up against OU's offense. It's pretty heavily favoring Texas. And even when you reverse it, and listen, OU has a hell of a defense this year. There's no question. Like, Venables is a defensive guy. He knows what he's doing. OU has a strong defense, but even when you're comparing the OU defense to a Texas offense, it's a favorable matchup for Texas if we play smart and we don't get stupid penalties. Like, again, that was another issue for Texas in the Mississippi State game. It's just, I think we had something like 8 or 9 penalties for 65, 75 yards. I mean, it was false starts and it was silly things like that at home. right? So that's
You
something.
can't blame cowbells.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. And to Seth's point, this is a crazy environment. I always crack up with people who try to comment about rivalries and about this game when they've never been, because if you haven't been in that environment, you can't describe it. It is absolutely nuts that they divided on the 50-yard line. And Texas has a really great video, and I think even Sooners can appreciate it, of Texas running out of the tunnel, which is on the OU side, right? And it's just a barrage of boos and hatred, and you can feel it, and it is loud and it is obnoxious and it is crazy. And literally right as they cross that 50-yard line going down the field, it changes almost instantly into cheers. But the sound is so clear when you cross that line. It really is like you're playing half of a home game and half of an away game. It's just a truly unique environment. So again, I think for Texas, it's a pretty mature team. And so a lot of our guys have played in this environment before, and they know what to expect. And I think, again, for OU, with your young quarterback, that environment's going to come into play. I really think it is. For young guys on either side of the ball, the environment matters. It changes the game. That's why this rivalry is always so crazy.
So, yeah, I mean, I've never been, and I'm for a good reason. Like, I don't have any reason to go. But I've heard that it's magical and it's fun, and I hope that both of you have fun and that it's not a blowout on either side, because then that's no fun to watch.
Debatable. It could be pretty fun to watch.
Okay, right. I enjoyed blowing out Missouri, so we'll say that.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think it'll be really interesting. One thing that's kind of standing out on Texas's injury report, and again, the official starting lineup will come out tomorrow. But Michael Kern, who is he's our punter. He is listed as questionable for Texas. He sustained a little bit of an injury in the Mississippi State game. He's had that time off, but he's been struggling a little bit this season as well. Just a young guy, maybe not nailing and his kicks as consistently as we would hope to see. So take our punter out of it, and that's going to have to go one of two ways for Texas. We're either going to have to just score on every drive every time we have the ball, or it could get, I mean, again, that's an area of this game that special teams has decided this game more times than I can count.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that OU could potentially capitalize on too, if Texas is struggling on that punting side, if we are forced to punt.
Speaking of punting, I appreciated Tyler White's punt against Missouri.
Oh, man.
Hitting the half-yard line. The fact that it was at the end of the first half made me so mad. So it was like, we can't even capitalize on it.
Right. You want at least one play ran after that.
It's like, God damn it. But I watched that, I was like, he did not. Like, how do you?
We did that against you guys.
Yeah, that's true. And how did that work out for you?
We didn't win, but it was a damn good punt.
No, there's that A&M just posted the pulse from the game, and there's a video of like the punt hit, and they go to one of our offensive linemen. He goes, "He's not real." Me too, Cam Dewberry. Me too. Like, he's not real, guys. That's not. No, we don't do that.
That's
People
funny.
don't just do that. I love somebody who's like, your punter has to be Australian. I said, actually, he's from South Lake. So, no. South Lake, Texas is not in Australia. So,
South Lake, Texas produces some kickers now.
They do.
We've had a couple of those.
I know when Kenny Hill came to A&M from South Lake Carroll. I'm from Carrollton. And people are like, oh, Kenny Hill went to your high school. I'm like, no. No. Super nope. Different, not even close.
So different.
You're like, I live in Carrollton, where it's a little, no, South Lake Carroll is much more affluent than Carrollton is. Thank you, though. Nice try. Let's see. Okay, now that Sydney has gotten to talk about her game and we've talked about other things, South Carolina and Alabama. I'm going Alabama just because I don't trust South Carolina as far as I can throw them. And
yeah,
that's
I don't either. They're all over the place.
Yeah. After Alabama literally being in like the worst spotlight after losing that game, they're gonna find something. I feel bad for South Carolina for what's probably gonna happen. So.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
it's not even at South Carolina, so they can't even.
It's at Alabama.
That's it to me. For me, if this game was being played at South Carolina, I might be willing to say, okay, South Carolina might put up a little bit of a fight here. The thing that I'm saying, I agree wholeheartedly. I think Alabama got embarrassed. I mean, obviously they got embarrassed, and they've got a chip on their shoulder to prove that they deserve still to be ranked high. You know, I think DeBoer is going to have a chip on his shoulder to prove that he's the guy that can pick up, you know, come right in after Saban. But I got to tell you, I mean, for me, this Alabama team looks really undisciplined, right?
Yeah.
You saw Malachi throwing what looked like a hissy fit for an hour and a half, you know, kicking the ball, throwing his mouthpiece, refusing to come off the field when his coach was when his position coach was telling him to come off, and then having DeBoer come out and him shaking DeBoer off. That to me, now he came out later, he came out the next day and apologized for all that, but you never ever would have seen a player have the gall to do that on a Saban team. You just wouldn't. So to me, you kind of pay attention to those little things. Is that indicative of the whole program? Maybe not, but I just hesitate to say. It just seems like there's a little less discipline on this team than we were used to seeing from Alabama. So, but yeah, I agree. I mean,
but what's interesting with that is that Malachi Moore is not a new player to Alabama.
Right.
So he knows what's expected.
He's a captain also. I mean, it just,
you know better.
Right. He 100% he knew better. And I understand it's emotional. Like you feel like you're the number one team you are the number one team in the country, and you're getting your butt handed to you by Vanderbilt. Yeah, that's not a fun place to be, but still, I don't feel like there were any kind of excuses for him to act that way for the amount of time that he acted that way. Again, if it was one play where he, you know, had a poor judgment, okay, that's one thing. But, you know, like I said, kicking the spotted ball, throwing his mouthpiece. At one point, he got up and like shoved a player's head into the ground with refusing to listen to your coaches. That to me, the coaching one was the most egregious one to me. Like those are your coaches. You don't fight them on the field and throw a temper tantrum. So it just makes you wonder, you know, what's really going on in the back end of that program. So something to keep an eye on for sure.
What made me laugh, and maybe it's because I'm on A&M Twitter more than I'm on Alabama Twitter, but I saw more people upset about Moose Muhammad shoving the ref than Malachi Moore throwing the hissy fit.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And I was like, literally, it was an accident.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't going after the ref. Was it a good choice? No. Should he probably have been penalized? Yes.
Yeah.
Was that going to change the outcome of the game? No. But like Malachi, friend, no. When
he got penalized several times, didn't he?
No, Malachi, I think. I'm talking about Moose.
Yeah, no, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like Malachi got penalized several times. So
yes.
I agree. It's weird that the focus would be on Moose versus Malachi. But again, Malachi, he caused actual damage to the team, right? Several penalties from his extended temper tantrum. So
you're like, grow up, please.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully live and learn. It'll be interesting to see how Alabama bounces back in this next game.
Georgia's going to hand Mississippi State their butt. That's not even going to be fun for anyone, except for maybe the Georgia fans. And even them, they may get bored. Like Mississippi State is just not good. Like it's bad. And it makes me sad because they're a fun program when they're good. With the cowbells and all. Like it's fun to watch. I hate cowbells too. But it's fun to watch.
It's really interesting.
Totally because of
that. Mississippi State's really interesting coming from like Sooner fans, like OU circles, because it's kind of split. Like with Jeff Lebby being the head coach there, it's like people who were like really all for Jeff Lebby at OU when he was at OU as an offensive coordinator the last couple of years. They're like really rooting for Mississippi State to be good and for him to have success. And then there's people that really didn't like Lebby for one reason or another. That we
being on the Baylor or Bryles Baylor team. I don't know.
Yeah, that whole Bryles thing. Yeah, that connection. And so there's a lot of people that are like rooting for his downfall there. So it's really interesting. I mean, I think most OU fans were probably rooting for Mississippi State last week or 2 weeks ago. Obviously for that game, but but for the most part, But for the most part, yeah, it's kind of been interesting to see. I don't really know where I fall in it. You're right, Shelby. Like when Mississippi State is good, it's or at least it's interesting whenever they have like a competent team. They're like just their fan base is really cool. Like the cowbells obviously is fun. So the whole Stark Vegas kind of thing, it's just it's great. But yeah, I don't think they're not going to do too much. I think this year.
They lost by a lot.
Look, I will say this. Lebby came with a really good game plan against Texas. He knew he was ready. The team was ready. They got up to play it. And I know other fan bases roll their eyes when we say this, but it's kind of like you were saying earlier. You know that every team is going to bring their beyond A game when they play Texas. You know that they're going to bring it when they play OU. It for us, we're used to seeing people play out of their minds and almost above their ability when they come against Texas. But I will credit Lebby. He had a solid game plan. He knew he had, of course, played Texas before when he was with OU, when he was with Baylor. So he was familiar with OU. He was familiar with a Steve Sarkisian coach team. They had a solid game plan. They just weren't able to execute on every level. And I think at the end of the day, Texas outperformed them, and fatigue started to set in with Mississippi State. But I agree, they're a fun team. They're a good team. I do think Lebby has an opportunity to turn that program back into what they were under Leach, right? Have some success and really get in the mix of things. But that's going to take a few years. That's not something that happens overnight. So, yeah, I think you'll see some Herculean efforts from Mississippi State this year. But as far as them being a consistently good and team that wins constantly, I don't see that out of them this year.
Have you seen the ticket prices for A&M Mississippi State? It's so sad.
It's like $8 at this point.
$8 in the first deck. $8.
Although I'll say A&M's kind of after they came. I'll say this, Shelby. After your fans kind of came out and crowed about how great the attendance was and how wonderful, it seems like since that whole A&M made it a point to talk about that and brag about that, it seems like you guys have been struggling to fill the stadium a little bit.
I mean, student-wise, I don't think there's a problem. I feel like it's an old ad problem. And it's because they're mad. They're mad about power. They're mad about, what Lord knows what. And they're like, I'm not going to go. And we're like, okay, fine, bye.
Yeah.
Don't care.
Well, tell them they don't have to go that last game in November and have those prices come down a little bit. Because my sweet baby Jesus, I haven't missed a game home or away since the 2012 season, right? And this one, the A&M game, is one that I may not be able to make work because the cheapest ticket right now is like $1,000 after fees and everything. The cheapest nosebleed, shittiest, you're up above the clouds. It is, like $1,000 to get in, and that's just that ain't in the cards for me this year. So hopefully, I mean, again, I'm going to sound like that arrogant Texas fan. That's not the intention here, but ticket prices always go up when Texas comes in town, right? It's you're seeing it right now. A&M's, you can buy an $8 ticket to go to A&M's game right now, but the Texas game, the cheapest one, is again, that rivalry coming back is exciting. But you do usually see right before the game, the week before the game, people had kind of overshot. So I'm asking all the fans, both A&M and Texas fans alike, be strong. Don't buy these tickets. Don't fall for this yet. Let those prices come down. We hold the line together. We'll be okay, people.
My little sister just graduated from A&M in May, and she was supposed to graduate in December. And I'm like, you couldn't have graduated in December for me? Come on now. She goes, I don't care about that game. I said, I could have taken your ticket, Lauren.
Right. My cousin just got into vet school. She's going to A&M. She just got into vet school, but I think she got in after the cutoff to be able to apply for the tickets. I'm like, it's killing me, kid. You're killing me. Again, I don't care. I'll sit with a bunch of Aggies. Just I don't want to pay $1,000 to go to the game.
I don't care where I sit. I want to be there.
Yeah. So crazy stuff.
I'm excited about Florida and Tennessee. I actually am.
Really?
I feel this game has been people chirping at each other, and I'm hoping Florida actually does something.
Man, I don't know. I think Florida is just a garbage team right now.
Yeah, they absolutely.
And then you throw on top of it all of this stuff with the hurricane coming through, and hopefully everybody's okay there. And I know Gainesville isn't in the direct path, but you still got to feel like that's going to be a little bit of a distraction for Florida. Again, I know the game is in Tennessee, but with everything going on, players worrying about family, just all the craziness that's ensuing from the hurricane. And then on top of that, just being the Florida team that they are this year, I don't know. I don't see that being a thing, especially, again, I think this is another situation. Tennessee, number 8, they got, Arkansas whooped the absolute, took them for a dog walk. And I think they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. They're back at home, back in Knoxville. Whew, I don't know. I feel bad for Florida in this one. I think that, I know Tennessee right now is 15, they're favored by 15.5.
That's crazy.
I would go the under or the over on that all day. I really would. I think Tennessee is going to show up with a vengeance.
I know that Ethan tells us that every time a backup quarterback plays against Florida, they make him look like they've won the Heisman. Marcel Reed came in. They're like, we're going to win because y'all are playing your backup quarterback. And I'm like, okay. And that didn't happen. Marcel looked wonderful.
He did. He looked really good for a young guy.
And I'm like, okay. But of course, Marcel got thrown into the bowl game. And that was that poor child.
Trial by fire, right?
That game will be. I think it will be pretty interesting, the Florida Tennessee game, because for at least for this reason too. And I mean, not to take any credit away from Arkansas, but I think there's people like, oh, maybe OU kind of gave the rest of Tennessee's schedule a sort of blueprint, at least defensively. Offensively, OU showed nothing in that game except benching their quarterback. But defensively, just Brent Venables dialed up some things to really slow that offense down. Coming into that game, they had scored like 190 points in 3 games, something absurd like that, and they held them to 25. And that was like in some, at the time, Tennessee fans were saying, oh, well, we just dialed it back in the second half because we had it in the bag. But it's like, well, what was the excuse in Fayetteville? Like, I don't think you were dialing it back. I think Arkansas just actually took the fight to them and showed up and actually played a really well schemed game. So it'll be interesting to see if Florida takes notes from Arkansas and from Oklahoma defensively to continue that, to continue to kind of contain Nico and that offense. Because if it happens, it could be another close one. I think with it being in Knoxville, I think that's really going to help Tennessee. But I think it could be one of those weird games where you look at, the score update in the third quarter and it's like 3 minutes left and it's like a 13-10 kind of game. You're just like, wait, what? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like in either way. So I could see it kind of playing out that way. But I do think Tennessee will probably get the win in the end.
Yeah, look,
I'm
Seth,
curious to see how their fans bounce back coming off of, like they're high on Tennessee and then their offense has kind of been exposed their last 2 games, like you were saying. And I'm curious how they show up for that. But Ethan always says he hates Tennessee fans so much and all this. But
Yes.
I will say they're horrible on social media, but there were a ton of them in Fayetteville. A ton of them in Fayetteville. And they were pretty great, except for like one person. But they were all really good fans.
There's always one.
Yeah, there's always one. But yeah, they were pretty good. So I'm curious to see. I'm sure there'll be a fully packed Neyland Stadium on Saturday.
Yeah, Seth, I think it's bold of you to assume that Florida knows how to take notes on things. Just looking how their season is going. Like I admire the moxie there, buddy. It'll be fun to see that one play out.
Let's see. We'll talk about the non-ranked matchup, and then we'll end with the ranked matchup. We got Vandy and Kentucky. Please let Vandy win this game.
I think Kentucky wins.
I do too, but I want Vandy to win.
Yeah, it'd be a great story. It'd be a great story for Vandy. But
what are they? Now they're now 1-60 versus top 5 teams.
What is that?
Hey,
what is that?
You got to start with one, right? It all starts with one.
Now we're going to go on a big fight. We're going to do it, guys. We're good.
I said this after the Vandy-Alabama game. I said, look, congratulations, Vanderbilt. We're all excited for you. You got your big win. You've met your quota. You're good for the season.
Yeah.
We're good.
No more.
Just call it there. As a Texas fan, you're good, guys. You're full.
Like, it's fine.
Be proud of that. Let's move on. You know?
You don't have to pull a Johnny Manziel 2012. Like, it's
Exactly. I mean, again, I don't think this is a thing that will happen, but how crazy. I mean, again, Vanderbilt has 2 number 1 teams coming in throughout the season, right? Alabama, Texas right now is ranked number 1. We'll see how that plays out after the OU and the Georgia games, but potentially Vanderbilt's going to be hosting several number 1 teams. So look, like I said, they've met their quota. They're good to go. They need to calm down at this point. It's cool, man. Chill, ride out the rest of the season. No big deal.
Has game day ever been to Vanderbilt?
No.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah, now that if they continue to win, that could be a crazy thing. But I'll be honest, like the way things are lining up right now, like Texas had game day and big noon kickoff for the Michigan game. And the way it's looking right now, it looks like we're probably going to have game day at the Georgia game at DKR. Yeah. So I would be surprised if they picked Texas, another Texas game, especially right after being in Austin for Georgia and going to Vanderbilt with Texas again. It would surprise me, but I guess crazier things have happened, right?
True. Vanderbilt's beating Alabama. Crazier things have happened.
Exactly.
That might be the craziest thing.
Last game of the evening, Ole Miss and LSU. Sid, what you feeling?
Oh, I'm going LSU Saturday night in Death Valley.
It's true.
That's a hard one.
I could live my whole life without playing another LSU game at Death Valley. Super okay.
Yeah,
I'm really hoping OU plays LSU in the season finale, the regular season finale, at LSU, and I'm really hoping that's like a 2:30 game, 3:00. Like, let's just start it early in the day. We don't
Make
need to
it 11 a.m. It'll be better.
11 a.m. Oh, I'll as an OU fan, I'll take an 11 a.m. game on that game.
I will tell you, it's a fun place. It's a fun place to be. I was lucky enough I saw Alabama at LSU at night in Death Valley, and it was a wild atmosphere. It was a lot of fun. Had a good time for sure. Yeah, man, this is another game. We were talking about it earlier. LSU is just a team that I cannot pinpoint this year. I have a hard time figuring out who they are. I know right now that it looks like Ole Miss is favored by 3.5. So I think Vegas is kind of thinking it's a crapshoot as well, right? Especially going in. I think I'm going to take LSU in this one. I really am. Again, Ole Miss, I think, is still a really good program, but I think this is one that LSU's got something to prove. They're at home, and if not, again, if this was in Oxford, I'd probably call this the other way. But being that it's at Death Valley, I'm going to take LSU in this one.
No 7 overtimes needed in that one either.
Right.
We ruined overtime for everyone. It's fine.
Look, I posted about this a little bit earlier. The 2020 game, the Texas OU game in 2020 went in. It started at 11, and it was a quadruple overtime game.
Yep.
And it was a 2020 season, right? So it was a relatively empty stadium. And when you take that Texas sun at that time of day, like as you're getting into the 2:30, 3:30, 4:00 hour, and it is beating down on the aluminum benches that are there because nobody's sitting in them. I was the most sunburned I have ever. Honestly, that was probably top 3 most miserable I've ever been at a game, just because of the heat. We were on the sun side for that game. The Cotton Bowl ran out of water. They ran out of lemonade. They ran out of everything except for beer. And I'm like, I don't want to drink beer. That's just going to dehydrate me more at that point, right? So it was so bad. Like I was reapplying sunscreen, but I was as red as this damn flag back here. It was awful. It was awful. Got to the point where they didn't have cups either. So I asked for ice and they gave it to me in like a cup tray just to take back to everybody because it was so miserably hot. So this is going to be a hot game for Texas, but yeah, those multiple overtime games, girl, I feel your pain. I do not want to get into that scenario again. I don't need to melt in the Texas sun at that time. Thank you very much.
I missed that 7 overtime game because my boyfriend at the time was like, we don't need to go. We're going to lose. And I was like, you are the worst. I'm still mad.
Well, that's why he's an ex-boyfriend, right?
I was like, I'm still mad that we could have been there. And the tickets were not expensive. Yeah. Like that day of, we could have got, I think it was like $50 for the 300s at that point.
Wow.
Because it was day of. And we were like, okay. It. And he was like, no, I don't want to go. And I'm like, I hate you.
I'm curious, Sydney. Sydney, I'm curious, again, from a Texas fan perspective, what's the hype around Texas coming back into Fayetteville this year? Is Arkansas excited for that game?
Yeah, whenever it was announced, it was like super exciting. And then our season kind of started how it did. And really it being an 11 a.m. game is like such a downer. But I think it'll still be a blast. The hype is like especially picking up again now that we just beat Tennessee. And before that, I mean, we have a brutal stretch there. We have host LSU, hit the road to Mississippi State, host Ole Miss, and then Texas comes in. But I think there's still going to be a lot of hype there.
Yeah, look, I've said this, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like Arkansas hates Texas more than they love themselves. Mm-hmm. And I will say I'm happy being a person that in Burnt Orange that will be at that game. I'm happy it's an 11 a.m. game. Last time we were there, Steve Sarkisian's first year, we looked terrible. We couldn't figure out our quarterback situation. And again, we were working with Casey Thompson and Hudson Card, which God bless them. I appreciate all they did for Texas, but
not it.
They weren't record beaters, right? And that game plan just well, and it was a crazy atmosphere. So I had mentioned that Rocky had Kentucky as a trap game for Texas since the beginning of the season. Even when y'all started the way you did, I have Arkansas as a trap game for Texas because again, I think it's one that Texas might have, the chance to overlook. But any game, and we call it Fayette-Nam, anything out there, it's a tough environment to play in. So I did not have a pleasant time when I was there. I got spit on. I had people like throwing things down from us from the top of the stadium when we were leaving. Like y'all won, and we were still having people try to like hurt us. I'm out. So for an 11 a.m. game is fine by me out there.
Yeah, those night games when you got people out and around all day. I didn't see anything too bad last weekend. That Texas game was just like, I mean, I was there for that, and I was there this past weekend, and I still think the atmosphere, I mean, I was in a different kind of atmosphere, but I think the atmosphere was still like bigger than than at Texas than it was last weekend for Tennessee. Yeah. And I don't know if it was because like of how much how much more success we had in that game or what it was, but it was crazy.
Yeah, it was a bonkers atmosphere. Seth, is there so outside of Texas OU, like, is there any place like as a Sooner fan that you just dread going, that you don't like the environment, that you know it's going to be a nightmare?
We left. We will no longer play there again, and that was Kansas State.
So that was really okay.
Yeah, that was the one. Yeah, I think most like myself and a lot of OU fans are really just kind of like excited at every SEC road venue for going forward, both this year and in the future. But yeah, like in the past, like it just for whatever reason, whether it was Brent or Lincoln, Bob, everybody just seemed like going to Manhattan, Kansas was just like, for whatever stupid reason, it was just like just weird things happened. Like it seemed like they had like a guy named Lockett on their team for like 15 years. Like that family had like 12 kids or something, and they all played like receiver and punt returner. So it was just a nightmare to go there. 11 a.m., 7 p.m. It didn't matter. It was always bad. So
look,
that's a place I'm glad that OU's not going to anymore.
When they had the Purple Wizard, I mean, he gave Mac Brown fits for Snyder gave Mac Brown fits for a long time too. So I never had a bad experience in Manhattan. Honestly, Lubbock, I absolutely did. Shelby, I think you could probably speak to that. Like A&M and Texas Tech has certainly have some knockdown dragouts with some pretty hostile environments, I'll say that. So
we're never going there.
Yeah, look, the fact that I never have to go back to Lubbock, too soon. It's too soon for me. Like I absolutely not a fan of that town.
Yeah, I would say for OU as a team, Manhattan was that place. For the fan experience, I would also go Lubbock. As far as like that was just, it wasn't the friendliest. It seems like for a lot of OU fans.
Right.
You know what they say? You get halfway to Lubbock, you realize you don't want to go to Tech. Like,
Listen,
no,
I have family out in Fort Stockton, Texas, which is true West Texas, like not the plains, not everything, but yeah, you get out there and you just start. And again, my grandfather was a dairy farmer and a cattle rancher. I am familiar with the smell of cow farts and oil, right? And it is just something different out in Lubbock. It just is. It is unpleasant, man.
when I was applying to colleges, I've told Sydney this, I got a letter from Tech and it had a football player on it and it said Texas TCEH.
Bless their hearts. Bless their hearts.
I was like, I have no interest in going to your school now. None.
We're good. Texas took. Like, yeah. Yeah, I know at one point Tech almost lost their accreditation. Like their courses weren't up to the standards. They almost lost their accreditation as a university. This is, I don't know, probably 7-8 years ago. So yeah, look, if you love Lubbock, I feel like, and again, I'm not trying to sound insulting, but I feel like as a fan base, Lubbock is one of those places, kind of like College Station, right? You either love it and you get it and you're all about it and it is your jams, or you're the outside looking in going, I don't get it. It's not my thing, you know? So
A&M's weird. I've accepted that a long time ago. We're weird. But I love being weird, so it's fine.
Yeah. Look, and as long as you embrace it and that's cool. I get it. That's for you. I appreciate that you love it. I'm happy in Austin. Thank you.
And you know what? That's fine. You can do that, and I'll be in College Station, and we'll have some knockdown dragouts for the rest of our lives now.
Absolutely.
All right, we will see y'all next week on the other side of Red River, and we'll see who is feeling great and who is not. And we'll see if it goes the way we expect, or if it's a regular Red River weekend.
Shelbie and I will be enjoying our bye.
Yes. Enjoy
Y'all
it.
are
I will
doing
say
exactly what we were doing.
Yeah, last week was crazy. Like I felt like Ricky Bobby. Like I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah,
it was.
I don't get to play too.
Absolutely. All
I
right.
feel
Well, hey, y'all.
Big upsets. I'm like, I want to play. Can I do that? And then A&M never does that.
Listen, anxiety-free football is fun football to watch. I'm just saying.
Yes.
It is fun football to watch.
All right. Thanks and gig 'em. We'll see y'all next week.
All right. Thanks, y'all. Hook 'em.